Apa yang dibuat? Kita lihat mana?
Sorry, can I say it? Like, not because like, yeah, that's cool. I have it on my. Yeah? Because that was not for the so you can access it immediately. Yes, yes. Thank you. Non composite. Number. And
Hello? Hello? No.
Yes. Yes. Nice that. Yes. Excuse me. Then it down. Then we can so we'll start in a minute at exactly 3:45. We have a check. I have to find you. All right, all right.
Welcome back to our panel, not channel. And we're going to have it as a presentation about this is all our finance, let's do our policies and think all those discussions until it's time to ask questions and observe. Thank you. So we are going into the part of this panel titled Policy Representation, Decoloniality and Censorship in Kannywood. We have three panel presenters, and the presenter will be joining us online. I am going to be chairing this panel, and my name is Lucas, and you're I want to you all once again to this panel. I have the first presenter, Decoloniality, Larry Person from Kannywood University. And he's presenting on performing dissent by proxy, reflections of elected female directors in Kannywood. The second presenter is Christiana Musa Bako from Bayero University, and she's going to be presenting on images of the new woman in selected Kannywood films. The third presenter is Kurera Adamu Garba from Bauchi State University, and she's going to be presenting on censorship as an encumbrance to portray reality in Hausa films. The fourth presenter that will be joining us online is Victor Osai Ihijero from Ahmadu Bello University, and is going to be presenting on subaltern capability and ability in selected Kannywood movies. Thank you because we enjoy this time. All right, Mr. You have a minute. Quickly, presenter is going to have 10 minutes to talk about as well, and after which we're going to take questions and observations. Thank you. If you want to use the podium, it's going to be better.
Yes. All right. Good afternoon. Let me call you with the protocol. The chair of this panel and fellow presenters and listeners. I say good afternoon once again. My name is Adine Kolan from Bayero University, Kano, of the Department of Theatre and Performing Arts. My topic today is Performing Dissent by proxy. Reflections on selected female directors in Kannywood. The idea of Kannywood is a form of adaptations of both Hollywood, which stands for the American film industry, and Bollywood, standing for the Indian film industry. It was actually coined in 1998. Okay, when we talk about dissent, we are talking about public disagreements with a belief. And in this case, I've decided to see Kannywood as an industry, as a form of dissent to the Hausa society, particularly the Muslim Hausa society, from, let's say, Kano, Kaduna, the predominant Muslim Hausa society. Now, in the film industry, we have a composition of both gender, the male and the female, engaged in the filmic output and activities in the film industry. It's not working. You're working, sir. Yes. Okay. So now, as we all know, many African societies are patriarchal in nature, and Kannywood itself is a reflection of the society it represents. Just like I mentioned earlier, I said Kannywood is will be seen as a film industry that is against the cosmology or the belief system of the Muslim Hausa society, which is largely guided by Islamic teachings. And as a form of dissent, you could see that in the activities in Kannywood, women also take the back row when we talk about gender roles within Kannywood now. And when these female actors began to interact with their I think, sorry, can you help me with this? Let me just continue, please. Yeah, when they began to interact with their Nollywood counterpart, they realized that the women in film industry could also take the leading role. And in this case, we are talking about filmmaking the position of the director, essentially with the fact that they believe that most of their stories, the women's stories being told by these male directors, were not actually capturing the female folk. The women were not actually captured the way they're supposed to capture them, having the first-hand experience of who a woman is, the experience of a woman. They decided to delve into filmmaking themselves. Now, can we move to the next slide, please? Now, the activities of these women will be seen as a form of dissent to the filmmaking territory of Kannywood, because the Hausa society has the activities there, them coming trying to break the stereotype of male dominance in the filmmaking space of Kannywood, we can see as a form of dissent. In essence, this paper investigates how Muhibat Absalam, who is a female director, and our Belu expressed dissent while working in the film industry. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now, this leads me to the question actually raised by Gayatri Spivak: can the subaltern speak? I've established that in the society, the women are seen as minority, they are relegated, they are as minority, we could see them as the subaltern in the Muslim house of society. And the question now is that, can they speak? Even when they decide to disagree with the gender roles within the film industry, can they still speak? Now, let's move to the next slide, please. Now, Spivak also mentioned that knowledge is never innocent. It expresses the interest of its producers. Now, Kannywood could be seen as a form of knowledge, representing the male-dominated house of society. And the dissenting voice of these women also represents their ideology of telling the woman story. So let's proceed. Now, my interaction with these two female directors, some key points were raised, and I tried to do a thematic analysis of it. Despite the fact that they've decided to approach the male-dominated space of filmmaking, there are certain issues coming up. To perform this responsibility of filmmaking, they still have to collaborate. And who do they collaborate with? The so-called male filmmakers. They have to collaborate with them. And this brings about the question of, can they still speak? Why continue their engagement with actors and other marketers within the Kannywood space? They still have to use men to enforce certain actions, probably on the actors and the marketers. This brings about the idea of masculinity, because the respect of women is not there. Being a society that is male-dominated. I don't know if you have the experience in northern Nigeria. The men will always tell you you are a woman. And what does that connote to you? So the idea of this masculinity, they still use that to enforce action from the actors and other marketers they work with. And the last one is marriage. That's the last thing I realized from these two directors. Because of some of the reactions they get from other actors, particularly the male actors, they have to hide under the umbrella of marriage to get some things done. And going forward, to produce the films, specifically film distribution now, they still have to use the names of their spouse. For example, in the case of Muhibat, he has to use the name of Azan Gits, who happens to be the husband. Despite the fact that she is the director, she cannot put her name forward to the film she has directed. She must use the name of the husband for it to be seen by the people. So the question still remains, can they actually speak? Now let's go to the findings. Social policing. Why do we have all these things? The society. The society believes that the women are the minority. Whatever they do, especially when they are married, there is this policing, censorship to their activities. Another finding is gender ambivalence. They are not sure whether they are trying to contest the gender role within the Kannywood space and the patriarchal society, or they should still remain a woman. And the last one is colonized creativity. This is another finding. a woman who has engaged in the activity of producing, directing a film from beginning to the end, only for her to now put the name of a man. What does that mean? And at the end of the day, can they still speak? To the conclusion, based on our analysis, we realize that they try to contest the gender stereotype in Kannywood and largely by extension, the outside society. But at the end of the day, their expression of dissent remain unheard. That's why we say the performance of dissent remain unspoken dissent. And this still brings us to the question, can they really speak? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for that insightful presentation. I know that some of the audience are jotting down their questions and observations. And we'll move to the next presenter, Christiana Bakomusa. She's going to be talking on the images of the new woman in selected Kannywood films. One minute, please. We are trying to set up our slides. Good afternoon. My name is I am Babu and I am presenting on the images of the new woman in selected Kannywood films. Now, say the new woman. It presupposes the existence of an old woman. And who is the old woman? The old woman is seen as the traditional form of the dictate of the society, the gender of society have agriculture, and then religion, and then the woman who does not really have a say. But then the new woman, the process of a new woman was a term first used by Irish writer Sarah Grant in 1894, the writer who used the term to describe the new woman as a woman who is self-defining, a woman who is independent, and a woman who strives towards engendering radical social change in the society that fights the big barriers to women's emancipation and freedom. The scholar that popularized the term is Gary Johnson in his writings, where he kept making use of the term new woman to describe women who have achieved different feats in different fields professionally. Going back to the First World War, it was a period where the women's rights movement started, and then a lot of women also participated in the activities of the war in different fields. And then from that time, women began to move away from certain spaces that society had already assigned to them, most especially gender space, to venture into different fields, for example, going into law. Because these are not things that women do. These are not things that women do. Women going to volunteer to work as nurses, taking care of victims, and what have you. And then they began to put themselves cooling down to corset, wearing armor, the garments that men are known to wear. Now, in northern Nigeria, film has been used as a platform whereby societal norms, certain cultures are being promoted. This is the thing, this is what women are supposed to be, something that women should not do. And that is because women over time have not really been given the space. The movie industry can't, for example, the gender space.
that women find it very hard to infiltrate, and even when they come there, most times they take the roles of actors. Just like the last presenter talked about having women directors, it provides a platform whereby women also amplify their voices, articulate their concern, as reflect happening to the society, to the household culture, and the things that affect them. Sorry to do that. Well, no. Like I have here the introduction, earlier renegades or earlier prince in northern Nigeria, for example, made more emphasis on what the pursuit of marriage as a woman's ultimate desire. And things produced more recently will suggest otherwise, because we see women taking up spaces that are not culturally assigned to the woman in northern Nigeria. For example, in the film, well, that informs the choice of things that is selected from. But I'm talking about the image of the woman. There's an image that society paints of a woman, and there's an image that a woman paints for herself. For example, the new woman, who is the new woman? The new woman, like I said earlier, is one who is not self-defining, to self-motivating, and then she's one who was trying to bring about social change in the society, whereby women would have equal rights with men, women would be given the opportunity to also participate in gender space, the same space, given the same opportunity as men, striving towards equity and equality in the social, the political, and even in the house. Now, Sawadogo in Sawadogo 2015 presented it was as an image-driven narrative medium. That, and in the same way where I say that household filmmakers also see their face as an expression of what household culture and religion. They promote household cultural values, which I believe was putting excellent and being protected, because there are so many things, so many images that we see in the film that how can we that not reflect this particular place. Thank you. Oh, sorry, for my theoretical framework, looking at Lombard theory of semiology, and by adopting that abstract theory, I looked at the signs and the symbols associated with the image of the human as reflected in these groups. And then this study analyzes the signs and symbols of the priest Suraya, directed by Hussein Ali Muhammad, Ida Dawaje, and then Ma'aurata by Fadal Jurei. And it is interesting to know that all this, the directors of this group are all men, and then they now, at the end of the camera, have now was painted an image of the new woman out there for people to see that, okay, this is how we choose the new woman in northern Nigeria. So you're a woman who is career-oriented, you want to be independent and empowered woman. Then these are some of the things that are associated to the new woman. Now, the discussion of the image of the women they are projected in this film. First, we have the cultural disruptor. How to be a cultural disruptor? Someone who was talking against the culture of, okay, you pick against the culture, that's the Hausa, the Islamic Hausa culture in northern Nigeria. These are the things that a woman, these are the roles assigned to a woman, but the woman now picks against this. For example, in the film, in all the three films, you discover that all the women are career women. One works in a very big company, and then she works with a lot of men. The women there are and she occupies a very high position. For Ma'aurata, we have a woman who is also a working class. Her husband was rich before, but then some things happened along the way with his business, and then he became poor. But then she was the one now taking care of the family, providing for the family. And then for Bida Dawaje, it also tells the story of a woman who is economically buoyant, she's strong, she's the one taking care of her confront, she's the one bringing money, she's the one bringing food to the house. But then for another thing for the cultural disruptor, culturally in Hausa society, a woman is supposed to be at home. right? Where they practice the police system. A woman should not be seen outside. There are certain spaces that a woman should not be seen, but she should stay at the home to take care of the children, to take care of her husband, but not to go to the office. But that's not the case in all these three things, because most of the women have projected in the films what take up roles or positions in their offices that will really take their time and affect the kind of attention that they give to their family. Like we have in the, I think in Ma'aurata, she's a banker, and then we see cases in the film where the husband always complains that she goes to work very early and she comes back late. She comes back as late as 9 p.m. The husband has to take the children to school because it's not working, he lost his job. And the children even he puts them to bed, they sleep before she comes back, and then she does not really perform her role as a woman of what, taking care of the home. Now, for self-defined, if the women in this speech are self-defining, they don't allow the society to define them or their men to define them. They take charge of their life. They do whatever it is they want to do, and they are not constrained by culture, which is something that is not seen in northern Nigeria, because most times, even if you feel you're an empowered woman, you're educated, there are times where a lady can be a girl, can go to school, she'll be educated, have the qualifications, but once she marries, it is the man who decides her destiny. He can decide to say, my wife did not work, and that stands. So for her to be married, and marriage is one of the things, one of the major requirements from the woman, a girl child or a woman in northern Nigeria. If you're not married, you're seen as a woman who is wayward. People don't accord you that respect. And then for independence, yes, the new woman is empowered, economically empowered, and she does not rely on her husband to give her money, but she also contributes to running the home fund. And then we have defense. Yes, they are always defensive. They cannot be bullied. They stand for whatever it is that they believe in. They are always at the defensive. No, I have to do this, and if you don't stop with them, I will have to take a decision for myself. For example, when we have in Suraya, she's a successful lawyer whose husband is jealous of her record because he had a record of never being beaten in the courts. But his wife, being a woman, she broke his record and she defeated him twice in court, which affected their relationship and it basically led to a divorce. And then career focus and talk about that. And then on mothering, they are being faced by so many obstacles that affect them to mother their children, to take that role of responsibilities of being mothers in the house, and then seek radical change. Seek radical change, also fight for justice, also fight for women who are marginalized, women who suffer different forms of violence, sexual abuse from their men. And then we got the woman who goes to work is seen as a wayward woman, a woman who is youth, because she's expected to be in the house but not outside. Because when she goes out, when she goes to work, she has to interact with men, which is not culturally and Islamically acceptable in the northern setting. So I just have some images, and one of the pictures I have here, I have the manager in the big company whose husband is economically not buoyant as she is. And then they went to visit her mother, and then while they were leaving the house, the husband came to sit at the back of the car. And she was like, no, he cannot sit at the back, that she's not a server, she's not a driver, she cannot drive him. So if he must go with her in his car, he has to come to the front. Which projects the new woman has one which not who kicks against the life of servitude. I'm not going to be your servant, I'm not your slave. So if you must enter my car, then you have to sit in front because you cannot be at the back and then I will drive you in my own car. Sorry, the next slide. Okay, and then here we have Alia, one of the women who is busy and career oriented. Like I said, she will go to work as early as possible before the children will go to school, and she'll come back late at night, and she does not even have time for her husband. At night, the husband came to her, but she was still working with her laptop on the bed. And it paints that picture that she's not a good wife. She does not even take care of her husband, even though she goes back to work. She's married to her job, not to her husband. And then the first picture there, we have the children. The woman there coming back from work at night because the children even slept in the parlor. The father was taking them to their, reading, helping the children to do their homework. The woman is not around, and before she even came back from work, the children have slept. Sorry, the next. Okay, I think the slides. And then this is the lawyer and her husband. The husband, when she was telling that he cannot break her record, and the husband is feeling threatened that how can a woman break his record? And even that woman is even his wife, And well, next slide, please. Sorry. Okay, now in conclusion, now this paper concludes that even though it has taken tremendous steps for women in Northern Nigeria to acquire a degree of independence through education, the empowered woman is still portrayed as a cultural structure.
I hope Dr. Victor, are you still online with us?
Still online with us. All right. Okay.
Yes, please. I'm here. I'm
okay.
following.
Thank you. Okay. Stay with us. Thank you. And we have the third presenter, Dr. Ferreira Adamu Garba from Bauchi State University. She's going to be presenting on censorship as an encumbrance to portraying reality in Hausa films. Thank you, Dr.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very sorry. I didn't produce slides due to some problems. So I'm going to present from here. So we're talking about censorship as encumbrance to the portrayal of reality. Dr. Carmen has spoken extensively on censorship and what led to censorship in Kannywood. We all know that Hausa people, since before the coming of the Europeans, they were very conservative and have been very wary of foreign ideas. So that was why even when the British came in 1903, the Sultan then, Al-Tahiru, fearing foreign influence on his people, that Anasarada as a white man will now come and bring his religion and foreign cultures, he decided to migrate with his people. So the same thing happened with when cinema was first introduced in Kano in 1937. People now viewed cinema as something that has come to corrupt their children, the culture and everything. So they kicked against it. They placed cinema, in the same category with prostitutes and thugs. If you are going to cinema, they will view you as a very bad person. That, the same thing with same category with prostitute and thugs. So things that led to the establishment of the censor board, I think 3. So the first one is the Sharia. When Sharia was established, because as I told you, film was seen as one of the things that was corrupting the youth, people now call for the banning of film, that film should not be shown, film cassette should not be sold, and film should not be made. So there was a ban. They called for the ban, and the second one was due to some sex steps that something that by an actress that happened. So that one to call for another clamor. And then another reason was one of the distributors now claimed that the National Censorship Board does not cater for the need of Kano people, of Hausa people, of Muslim people, that they only talk of general, but they don't censor religious and cultural issues. So they think they needed their own, board in Kano. And Kano, why Kano? Kano is the center. It has always been the center of the culture and religion in Northern Nigeria. So now they now felt, so when those things happened, and then Sharia film was actually banned for 6 months. So because they could not work, they could not feed their families, it was actually the members of the film board that went to the government and asked for, since you banned us now, we've given you another option. Instead of this, you can censor us. So they were actually the ones who suggested the censorship. So part of the censorship, the main aim of the censorship board was to make films that are morally sound, that does not corrupt the morality of Northerners, that does not touch a religion, does not touch culture and other things, similar things. So part of the things, I'm going to give examples of the films that were censored. Number one was Alhaji Kuko that was made in 1999. It was based on a novel. Actually, is an adaptation of a novel into a play. So, because in that movie, a man and a woman were shown on bed, you know, they were not doing anything, but there was like a foreplay. So they banned the film, and the director, a fatwa was issued on his, you know, he had to run away because. So the second one was Salihah, is a film about a girl who was shown to be, you know, constantly in hijab, and then she now became pregnant. She later on became pregnant. So it was like, oh, they are now showing that a girl in hijab can become pregnant. And then even that director, he too had to run out of town because there was an issue for his, then there is Malam Karkata about a Malam that was sleeping with women, you know, a man about that had to sleep with women before he attends to their need. And then there was Cynthia, which was, you know, Cynthia in Hausa means broom. And broom, it's like, it actually means unity, because broom, you know, you use one string to tie your hand. So it's a movie about a Christian and a Muslim, you know, Christian, Igbo and Hausa Muslim love story, which was also banned. The reason they give was it was uncensored before they release it. So there's a Makaranta, which the film, according to the censors board, they told me that the film was all about sex education. So it was banned, and the director too, he had to run away. They issued for his arrest. So there's a Gobara Mata. Gobara Mata, that one is about lesbianism. It's a movie about lesbianism. So that too was banned for, you know, it's a movie that's corrupting the culture. So Anna Watagawata, which has a lewd, you know, words in it. And then Adunia is about criminals, because films about banditry, about anything that shows terrorism is also banned. So because of those, I'm not thinking that because of this censorship, then reality can never be portrayed in Hausa films, because Hausa film cannot portray attention between husband and wife, because touching is not allowed. You cannot touch, a woman or a woman cannot touch, cannot hold hands. So Hausa films cannot portray affection between father and daughter, between husband and wife. They cannot portray the reality of Boko Haram and banditry that's ravaging the north. They cannot portray, the movies cannot portray the reality of some evil people in the society, like the bad marabouts, because we have them, the bad marabouts that who actually sleep with women. There was even one on YouTube that was going about a woman who complained that she went to see a marabout and he slept with her, but the woman was mentally affected. But, you know, so that's the reality that's happening, but then it cannot be shown in the film. So about censoring obscene and vulgar languages cannot be used in a movie, but Baza, you know, is even what in Hausa language is part of the literature. When you study Hausa literature, you study Hausa, you study obscenity, that's Baza, because you have it in literature, you have it in poems, you have it in, so that's the reality there, but you cannot portray it in movies. So and then films that speak on the reality on in Hausa society, like excess divorce cases, like incest that does sometimes there are many cases of incest in Kano, and then homosexuality, and then even the lesbianism. So those ones too cannot be portrayed in the films because all those are banned. So, and then there was a film in Kanachasa, you know what, this issue of touching hands, somebody was trying to evict, there is a film, you know, they're trying to portray an eviction. And then the landlord now cut the hand of that one too, they banned this Arewa 24, which is a channel, but that one, it cannot be done because it's a cable, TV. So because of this, things that are not reality, the censorship board is trying to portray a morally upright society, which is faultless, you know, which is not a reality. So in trying to portray that, they're portraying the opposite. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Dr. Pereira. All right. we would go to Dr. Victor Ihidero, and they from Ahmadu Bello University, pardon me, and they will be talking about subaltern speakability and voice in selected Kannywood movies. Dr. Victor, are you with us?
All right, I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Okay, good evening.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, you have 15 minutes.
Newspaper. All right, thank you so much. I hope to use less than 15 minutes.
Okay.
Because this is a study that I am still trying to, complete, and I would like to get perspectives. Thank God that we have a lot of people from Kannywood here. I can see their faces. I'll start. I'm doing a study.
Can you speak up, please?
Subaltern speakability. Yes, can you hear me?
We can now.
All right. The study is entitled Subaltern Speakability and Voice in Selected Kannywood Movies. While I'm still trying to get the movies to use to run this analysis, I will just run through what I've been able to piece together.
Okay.
The word Kannywood is in Nigeria, number of movies each year. The industry, can you hear me? Hear me? Victor, can you hear us? It's supposed to still be talking, but I don't know what's wrong. I don't know. No, I'm not sure. Yes, we can hear you. Please continue. Hello?
Okay.
I'll just chat him up. Oh, he left already.
He left?
Yes.
Okay, in our discussions, I know there are people have questions and explanations for the center. Please, if you do, you can just go ahead and ask your questions. Okay, Dr. Balakani.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the presenters. Some papers very interesting. Maybe a little bit of culture shock, but interesting all the same. Thank you so much. I thank you for speaking passionately to papers. Quite interesting. Okay, so I was wondering, we talked about banning Dr. Pereira talked about banning.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear.
Yes, we can.
dear Lord.
This time around.
All right. I have to change location again. Yeah, so I said the industry is one of the largest indigenous film markets in Africa. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, so it contributes 30% of Nollywood's yearly production output. This is gotten from Ajajara in 2016. I'll go straight to the main issues. Let me start from conceptual clarification. Now, the term subaltern originated from post-colonial studies and refers to individuals or groups who are socially, politically, and economically marginalized or oppressed. It is predicated on the perspective of the other as having no voice, either because of their ethnicity, race, class, or gender. It is a name for the general attributes of subordination in history or society, whether this is expressed in terms of class, caste system, Can you hear me?
You can say this one.
Please just continue. We can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Just
Age,
continue.
gender, and office or in any other way. Now, in the context of Kannywood, analyzing subaltern speakability and voice involves examining how marginalized individuals or groups are given the opportunity to speak, to express themselves, and assert their agency within the narratives of film. This analysis involves studying representation of various subaltern groups, such as women, ethnic minorities, religious minorities, individuals from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and assessing how their voices are portrayed, validated, or silenced. And this brings us to the question. Now, if we describe Kannywood as an industry that caters for the population of the people from the northern part of Nigeria, if we go by that description, so what happens to other ethnic minority within the region? The movies that they produce, can they be categorized as Kannywood as well? For example, if you go to, there's the gala industry. If you go to Gombe State, there are other smaller industries producing movies there. Are they Kannywood? Are they Kannywood? Because again, it appears that there is a very little study on these other smaller industries within the broad spectrum of Kannywood. So what can we call them? Are they part of Kannywood? Looking at the general definition that we see on the cyberspace of what Kannywood constitutes. So why we have that in sight? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. So why we'll have that in sight? So what I intend to do in this paper is to use qualitative research method, such as key informant interview, in-depth interview, and documentary observation to get primary data that will help this analysis. And in getting the primary data, I intend to use interpretive inquiry technique to analyze the primary data, which I will get from the key informant interview, in-depth interview, as well as the movies themselves that I will be analyzing. Then, I also consider the marginalized communities in Kannywood. Now, as part of a cluster study that I'm doing, I happen to be in Kano in 2013. I had a friend who I met online, Nafisat, a social media thing, and she was always alone. And I probed and I asked why. And considering the length of our friendship, she opened up to me and she said something very shocking. She told me that she subscribed to homosexuality, lesbianism. And for me, that coming from a northern Muslim in quotes, that was shocking. And I asked further. And she told me too then that she was into film. And the bugging question for me then was how? Then the answer she gave was revealing. So she said within the community, within the Kano community, within their group, within their cohort of lesbians, please permit me to use that word, of lesbians, that they produce film and movies. And the question was how? Now, the kind of movie that they produce, they do their casting, do their production, everything underground. And that particular production is distributed underground. So whether we like it or not, it shows that there is a market. There's an underground market of same-sex marriage within now, this particular market, this particular marginalized community, Kannywood. Hello, can you hear me, please? All right. So why there are rules, a lot of rules. Generally, women are not allowed to advance from acting. All single women in the industry have to have a male guardian who will be legally responsible for their work if their work broke the rules. A lot of restrictions. But let us look at the issue of speakability in Kannywood. Now, while one of the presenters, that's Mr. Larry, was speaking, he made mention of dissenting. Can you hear me? He made mention of dissenting. And I also, unfortunately, I also have that here. Now, dissenting is one of the agency of speakability in itself. Dissenting is one of the agency of speakability. Because by not agreeing to conform to what the Kano State Census Board is saying, it's one of the ways even filmmakers themselves can speak back to them to state their displeasure. Then another thing that I find very interesting is that of ambivalence as anti-structure. Ambivalence as what? Anti-structure. And what do I mean by ambivalence as anti-structure? Now, the relationship between Kannywood filmmakers, the Kano State Census Board, as well as the audience, can be described from two lenses. Because if you look at the audience, for example, there appears to be an attraction, whether we like it or not, towards nudity. And this is coming from a study that was done. That a lot of Kannywood audience are also exposed to Nollywood. They're exposed to Nollywood. They're exposed to other industry in Europe. They're exposed to Hollywood. And all of this also opens them up to see things that Kannywood is trying to protect them from. So that way, the people rather goes for such content that stick with Kannywood. A study was done in 2019. And in Nigeria, about the northern region accounts for 31% of subscribers to Netflix. So the question is, what do they watch in Netflix? Are there Kannywood content on Netflix? If there are, how many? So all of these are contending. What comes to my mind is the work of Richard Schechner that speaks of anti-structure to describe a temporary state or moment that opposes the established social norms in a society. How has Kannywood also, instituted some kinds of anti-structure, for example, in Kano State? How? So these are bugging questions that are begging for answer when it comes to that of voice and speakability. Because what the likes of Ali Nuhu has done, Rahama Sadao and all of that, is anti-structural. It's anti-structural. Even if they've not been able to sustain that anti-structure, we cannot take that away from them, that in itself was also some form of speaking. To conclude, I've said that the cinematic culture of the Hausa film industry is at a crossroads between staying with its own idealization of traditional modernity or the postmodern cinema. And this, again, also reinforces that ambivalence that I spoke of. Then, although the marginalized communities in Kannywood are finding solace by releasing short video skits, their voice within the framework of the industry can also not be heard. Now, it is not about speakability, so to say. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, it's not much about speakability. It's about voice. It's about speaking. For example, the women taking credit. Yes. That is so true in Kannywood. And this has resulted to ghost production. You see everything done by women. So because they don't want to take responsibility, because they are looking at their name within the larger framework of society, they ascribe all their creative work to men. Ghost production. It's a form of speaking in itself. But that form of speaking is such that lacks voice. They cannot be heard, they cannot be seen, they are faceless. So all of these are the containing issues that pop up when we think of Kannywood, when we think of speakability, when we think of voice. So I conclude by saying that it's not much about speaking, it's about speaking to be heard. Speaking to be heard by the givers and takers of voice. Because there are people who give voice in Kannywood, there are people who takes voice. And this particular group is represented by the Kano State Censorship Board. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Victor. We hope you and us to take the questions. Okay, the panelists have spoken, and the House can now ask the questions. Yes, Dr. Kannywood will ask the question. Okay, so I think I can start on this.
I think I should start from the first speaker. Okay, Dr. Adeneko. I'm curious to know how. Okay, so if a researcher is coming to work on Kannywood, for example, and these women are already using their husbands' names that they're directing by proxy, how does the researcher go navigate that kind of, especially if the person is not visiting, if this person is relying on information available, maybe online or in the libraries, or you understand what I'm trying to say? So how can one navigate that? That's one question. And then Dr. Bako, I was wondering, you talked about the new woman in Kannywood. And I was wondering, okay, so it seems to be a little bit in disparity or kind of, what will I call it now? I don't want to say disparity. I don't want to say the word disparity. Yes, with what she said, because we're talking about the fact that there's this new woman who is assertive, who is educated, who is independent, all right? And this is being expressed in the films. First of all, I would like to know, I don't think you mentioned the titles of the films. I'm not sure. Oh, you did. Okay. So how does one navigate this? This particular police that goes after the Hisba police that goes after these kinds of films, how can they, are the new women film banned? Are they banned, or they're allowed to run and all that? So that's the question. And then concerning the censorship for the Hisba police now. So you cannot touch hands, you cannot. So I'm just wondering what exactly is not banned? Like, what is left to be done, And then I'm also thinking about the film reading. Okay, for people in the north that are watching these films, do you start to conjure images of what should have happened? For example, now, if a husband and wife are talking and they're not touching, so do you begin to imagine that, oh, on a good day they are touching, or they are, as a film, as an audience, how do you picture it? You understand? Because for me, if I was watching that kind of film, I'll probably be lost because I'm not used to that culture. But for those of you that are used to that culture, do you conjure images in your mind when you are actually watching the films? I'm just curious. And then I'm also for Dr. Ihidero and Dr. Garba. I was just wondering, this kind of research that you are doing in Lagos, you understand? You're doing this research in Lagos. Can this research be done in Kano? Can you speak freely to this subject in a university, for example, in Kano? Or you feel freer to talk about it because you are in Lagos? I'm just curious. And then, okay, and I'm also wondering that this rule of the ISBA, is it particular to Kano, or Is there some more flexibility in other parts of the North, or is just Kano alone, or is every part of the North that have to follow these rules to the letter? And then for someone who is watching Netflix in their houses, somewhere in Kano, and they are caught, would that be a crime? What? Okay, that's about all. Thank you very much.
Like she said, I'm also concerned. Okay, I'm Dr. Maureen, Madonna University. I am also concerned, seriously concerned with a director, a female director that after putting so much of her energy in a work, now puts the man's name on the work. I'm very, very concerned. Like she said, if I'm a researcher using that movie, and like she said, I want you to really speak to it. Now, the second paper, The New Woman. When you were talking, I was listening to hear from your definition of the new woman, the self-definition, the whatever. I was expecting to hear the answer to my question from his paper, from your paper, but it ended the same way. I discovered in your presentation that the concept of the new woman is painting the woman as a cultural rebel in the film. I wrote something, are the producers or the directors, are they females? They are not females, meaning that the concept of the new woman is painting the new woman as a cultural rebel. Because when you were showing the pictures, what came to my mind is these people are painting these women as rebels. Then they are warning society, don't follow the steps of this new woman, that this new woman is a nuisance, is a rebel, is a disruptor, as you used the word. And again, I wrote here, the film is against the emergence of the new woman. So in Kanu or in Kannywood, there is no new woman. The preaching there or the portrayal or the framing of the woman is against the woman and is painting her as a cultural rebel and telling society, don't imitate her. She's no good. So I don't know, can we ever walk around this situation in Kannywood? Because I remembered when I did my project on the image of Nigeria and Nigerians as being projected on Nollywood. Because I had to include, to me, Kannywood is Nigeria, is Nollywood. To me, that's where I see it. I see all the woods as cultural vehicles, speaking to different cultural diversities, but they are still Nigerian movies. My supervisor directed me to Professor Damu. I interviewed him on email. He said Kannywood does not think about Nigeria when they make their films, that they think about Islam, and they think about, and they copy Indian films. And he sent me a book. After reading that book, it's a collection, is book as in chapters. After reading them, I discovered what you were saying. But do we or will we ever come out of it? I don't know if we can answer my question, because at times the questions we ask are not within us. It's within the society. We just, like academics, theorize, present papers, and the situation is still the way
Out of it. It's just
okay. Okay, so the question is to Dr. Garba. Now, the films have an issue with censorship. What about the novels? Can you freely say whatever you want to say in the novels? Or is there ISBA coming after the novels as well?
I think the panelists should answer these questions so that they don't get overwhelmed, and we'll take another round of questions. Okay.
The first question, I think, is just it's more a polish rather than a question. I think having a contact person in the film industry to give you information about how to get these female directors. For example, I know about this one of my seeds who researched on one of the female directors, and in the course of our research, we get to know some of these things. And I proceeded with meeting some of my students who are also part of the Kannywood film industry, and they gave me certain information regarding that, and I proceeded to meeting with some of these directors. In fact, I met with more than two, but I decided to for this purpose. Answering the question by Dr. Mori, I think just like you said, some of the questions we did not have answers to them here. And that's why I continue to ask, pinning down my presentation to can they actually speak? So it's just for us to critically see a possibility if they can speak or not. It's more or less like a forum. So for us to discuss, I don't think I have a direct answer to that. So it's just something we need to think about. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So,
No. When they finish, they're answering a set of questions.
Okay.
So, okay, all right. So,
Thank you all for your comments. And for Dr. Maureen, you asked about the films about the new woman. That are those films banned? No, they are not banned because the films are not produced by women. They are produced by male directors, and they use their films now to paint an image of the new woman. That this is all that the new woman is, and it paints a very bad image of the bad woman, of the new woman. And what it means is you cannot say you are a new woman, walk in the shoes of a new woman, and still perform your role or function in the society. For example, from the three films that I analyzed, you discover that these women chose their career over their family. They did not have time for family, but they were career-oriented and focused. So invariably, what they're trying to say is a woman cannot balance between the two. If you want to be a career woman, then you be a career woman. Because in one of the films, one of the women, she ended up getting divorced because the husband told her that she was going out to work, and he said, "Is that she choose between him and work? Is that she go to the office or resign or stay as a married woman in the house?" And then she decided to go out there and pursue her dream and then her desire, what she wants, irrespective of what society thinks of her. So it's just the society's way of painting that negative image of the woman who is empowered, who is educated in the society. And I think that also answers your question too, because when you look at it naturally in the society, in Hausa culture, of course, I can say that the new woman exists because we have them. They are educated, they are married, they have children, they come for conferences like us, and then they leave their husbands. And
She's a new woman.
Yes, I'm a new woman. We are all new. Well, I'll speak for myself. I'm a new woman, but then I'm also self-defining. Yes, because all these negative things, there are names that there are name tags that are being placed on the woman, but that's not how she sees herself. That's because she does not conform to the restrictions or the boundaries that society has placed for her.
Okay, Dr. Ferrer, are you now answering the questions?
Yes, can she repeat the question? I don't know.
I think
well, I was talking about that's when you watch this.
Yes, actually that's what you are not supposed to think. So that's why those things are not portrayed in the film. You're not supposed to think about sex. So if you see people touching her, your mind will immediately go to sex. So you're not supposed to think about it. But we all know what we think about in our hearts, so that does not. And there are other channels, Netflix. Everybody has a cable in their home. They have Arewa 24. So everybody. So, but is that image of the Hausa, perfect Hausa person? In films, you have to show that the Hausa film. They are even saying there's a film that was made, but not in Kano. They said they have to censor them because they are wearing Hausa clothes, speaking Hausa language, so they are Hausa people, so they have to censor them. How they can do that, only God knows. But you know, so that's it. So what about in the what? So the novels too, they are part of the censorship. Yeah, the censorship. Yeah, there was even a time they had a book burning. I think they even started from the novels. Yes, before this. Yes.
Yeah. And I was asking,
The first way, yeah.
oh, people can speak on this issue in Kano. Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, if I can speak, I will try to speak about it, but I know I can speak about it. I know I can speak about it, but I know, had it been this Kano, you have like 10, 20 Hausa men or lecturer trying to prove me wrong, trying to tell me that, I know that I can speak about it, but I know that I'll have so many that are trying to, when something is blatantly clear, they will tell you, no.
If you permit me, a minute, I'll quickly want to respond to that. Now, Dr. Kurara is in Bauchi. She's not in Kano. So we that reside in Kano know our boundaries, especially as migrants and settlers who do not belong to that culture, who do not belong to that society, except by the virtue of work. And so we know our limits and limitations and the needs that the society has covered. So she should take for herself based on Bauchi State University. Thank you.
But you're saying, she's saying, can I speak about it? I can speak it. If I want to present my paper in BUK, I can present this paper. Highest they will get up and talk, and I'll respond to them. You understand what I mean? So I think
the sentiment of the paper. You'll be worried about.
Nobody will do anything.
Sorry.
And I think it depends on the temperament of the paper. Presenting on what a lot of people have said. I have always said it. Dr. McKay has always said. And so, the temperament of these issues we are discussing varies. And so we have to be, academically intelligent. Now, sorry if that is not right. In presenting our issues as the kind of issues we present. Now, you cannot talk about Dr. Victor's issues in Canada. No, you don't want to do that. No, I don't know what is going to happen. But there are issues you will not talk about in Canada. And that is why I'm saying maybe, what exists in Bauchi is different from what exists in Canada. Because we all know that Kano is the center of Islamic scholarship.
Excuse me, but let me say something.
Sorry, can we
excuse me, the censorship you are talking about, those people, they've been arrested. We know so many people have been arrested, have been molested because they are filmmakers, but we're academics. Do you mean that when you get up in a conference and present your paper, I don't think anybody will arrest me? So you people in UK should let us go. No, this is an academic environment. I can go and present my paper and
please, can I have the house? Please, can I have the house? Please. And we are all permitted to air this. Please do not let us get emotional.
But I'm telling you, no, it is you that gets emotional. It is you. It is you. I'm stating my facts. I can present my paper in the UK.
Yes. I'm not saying do not take your part. I'm just saying do not get too emotional about it. You get it. And that is why I said our paper maybe, but Dr. Victor's issue is not a pain I can. Anybody can go ahead and discuss it, but I will not. For my safety, I will not. Whether within the university or outside the university. Thank you. And so yeah, that's the question.
Actually, good idea of I just wonder not about our country, Nigeria. So I'm wondering whether all these issues are based on Hausa culture or Islam, and then whether you people have tried to research into film production in core Islam countries, whether they go to these extremes, and why is it so peculiar to Kano and Nigeria that we call the same country with us here. I mean, are these not issues that can be raised in a country like this, actually? I can understand, I mean, playing safe, and I can understand her radicalism. But then the point is, I mean, can this continue to be allowed in this civilized, I mean, modern world?
That's their own civilization. That's their own civilization.
Okay. No, yeah.
No, okay, please, can I say something about this?
Yeah.
Can I say something about this, please? For me, if we look outside, you know, there are countries, Islamic countries, who, you know, they produce movies there, and women are represented. For me, the question would be the interpretation of Islam in Kano, not Islam itself.
Okay.
It is how Islam has been interpreted and given expression in Kano that is the issue. Because Kano as a state is ruled by the ulamas, the Islamic clerics. If you do anything against their grain, they will sermonize you. They will use your name in sermon, and you will not come out of it. I think that's the danger. So yes, so filmmakers in Kano are treading a very dangerous path. So I can understand the concern of Dr. Furera, Dr. Larry, and everyone there. It is a challenge. Okay, now I'm currently on a study on Kannywood or Nollywood on the margins, trying to look at this same-sex representation on the ground. And I'm finding it difficult. Nobody's even willing to talk about it. Nobody wants to give you data.
One day.
So these are the landmines. These are the landmines that, you know, those of us from here would have to deal with. Of course, what I said there, I cannot say it in Kano. So that's the danger. The interpretation given to Islam, not Islam itself.
Dr. Victor, I'll take Dr. McKenzie.
Okay, thanks. Hello?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, some of these questions feel a little bit exoticizing, as if suddenly you go to Kano and people are killing you on the streets. But anyway, I mean, I think you just learn how to negotiate, right? But I had a question about the new women. Unfortunately, I haven't seen any of those films, so I have to go look for them. But it sounds like the portrayal of the new women is somewhat negative in all of them. So I was wondering, have you looked at films where the new woman is portrayed positively? So I'm thinking particularly of something like Al-Bashi. It's quite old, but where the new woman is actually shown as a positive light, and her husband, who can't deal with it, is shown in a negative light. Maria, where there's a lawyer who, her husband, you know, they share household tasks. And then Hafsa, which is not quite the same, but kind of about the triumph of a singer. So those were just some I could think of off the top of my head. And I wonder how would the idea of the new woman, what would it look like if you were looking at both positive and negative portrayals? Because yes, I think there's a lot of negative portrayal of the new woman, but there are some filmmakers who are making positive ones.
Thank you, Chair. My own is also a kind of highlight on some of the issues that have been observed in two presentations that were made while I was around before I just left. One is that why this issue of censorship, why Kano in the whole of northern Nigeria? I think somebody made that other. Why Kano? Why other places? So Kano, as it was just being started saying, Kano is a center with some triple control by aristocracy, the ulama, and on the other hand, the intelligentsia. These are the three triangles that hold Kano culture. So even among the ulama, there are divisions, or there are a kind of category or categorization Sunni, and Tijaniya. So one part took this issue of censorship or Kannywood affair very serious. The other one doesn't care. While on the other hand, the intelligentsia are in the middle. They are not condemning completely, but they are also not supporting wholeheartedly. Like what the sister said, in the intelligence, in the academic environment, you can talk and nobody will molest you. Mostly you can get verbal response, but not attack or not subjected to any unhealthy treatment. So, and in academic, it's normal. You make presentations, somebody condemn it, or somebody make valid observation or criticism is valid, it's okay. But to be a victim, just because you made academic a presentation in this aspect, it's not, I have never heard of, and I have never seen of anything like that. But if in the practices, in the practical situation of the society, you attempt to do that, there might be consequences. And the magnitude of consequences is not imaginable. It's just what you have said. And more interestingly, the people that will respond to what you did might not even have the good understanding of the religious interpretation of what you have done. I hope I made my point. And the issue of new woman, yes, in that society, not only Kano, I think most part of the emirate of northern Nigeria, the phenomenon of a new woman is real. It's not even a contemplated issue, it's real. Any woman that enters into the situation she explained in her presentation, she's a new woman. And in fact, you may be interested to know that such kind of women are considered as the major factor that led to the degeneration of the society. That is the major consumption of the Emirates. In fact, among the senior ulama in Kano, you will hear them saying that the women that produce professors, that produce nationalists, that produce leaders, were not people that enter the four corners of the classroom. While the women that are professors now, they are polluting society with drug abuse, children. In fact, in a nutshell, they cannot give their children proper training because of transformation into that new human status. So they polluted the society with new projects. So I think this is a basic issue that I hope the presenter would have tackled, how the Muslim society is looking at the new woman while it is emerging in that part of the society. Thank you very much.
I don't know. I don't know if as a presenter I can also comment on other presentations.
But we have about 5 minutes to end this session.
Okay, let me allow others to talk. Sorry.
Who wants to say something?
Oh, I should ask you, about the woman shouldn't be in the house.
Yeah, I responded to that in my column, and then, yeah, I got some mean emails from some people, but yeah. She should be in the house. And this is the lead, this is the head of societal reorientation in Kano. And his weekly trust column. Yeah, back then.
Okay, thank you all for attending this panel, but I would like to say the last one that my earlier comment about not being able to present certain issues in northern Nigeria is personal to me. And so when he said that he understands his a perspective of radicalism and me being playing safe, I think it is fair for somebody who is from northern Nigeria and from somebody who is from southern Nigeria. And so definitely our perspectives and approaches to such issues and presenting them will be different, and it is totally understood and welcome. And so because it is an academic gathering, we are meant to disagree. But please, in our disagreement, in our positions, we should try to not attach so much emotions to it, because this panel is ending now, and you know, we are friends, we will still hug on our way out. You get it? And so it's part of it. So I thank you, Dr. Pereira. I thank you, the panelists. I thank you, Dr. Victor, for coming. I particularly thank again Dr. Talatu McCain from University of London SOAS. And this is her first time of attending LSA. And she came down because I reached out to her to be on my panel. She's a scholar of Kannywood studies. She researched Kannywood for her PhD thesis, and she's an established scholar in that aspect. So I thank you so very much. I thank every other person who is there. I thank my Kano brother from History Department. I thank my co-actor from this morning's session. I thank Dr. Ogona, everybody. It was lively. The discussion was robust. I hope we carry on going forward. Thank you so very much.
Well, to go to the boss.